Hello students, welcome to our new class. Okay, in the previous class we have discussed about the chapter The Brave Little Kite, right? We have completed that chapter. Okay, today's class we are moving into a new chapter, into a story about a camel. Okay, so before moving into the chapter, let us know some facts about camel. Camels are known as the ships of desert. You have already known that. They are known as the ships of the desert. Camels are their physical features are made to live in the desert. They are made to live in the desert. Their physical features they have is suitable to live in the desert. Then they can lift weights. They can lift weights on their back. And they are used for transportation in the desert. Right? They are used for transportation. And the next thing is that they have flat and wide feet which will help them from sinking into the sand. അതായത് മണലാണല്ലോ ഡെസേർട്ടിൽ നിറച്ചും ആ മണലിൽ താഴ്ന്നു പോവാതിരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് അവർക്ക് ഫ്ലാറ്റ് ആൻഡ് വൈഡ് ദേ ഹാവ് ഫ്ലാറ്റ് ആൻഡ് വൈഡ് ഫീറ്റ് ടു എസ്കേപ്പ് ഫ്രം സിങ്കിങ് ഇൻ ടു ദി സാൻഡ്. ഓക്കെ, these are the common facts about camel. And now let's look upon the interesting facts about desert. And the facts were given in our textbook, in our chapter. Okay, so let's look upon that. Our chapter name is The Arab and the Camel. The Arab and the Camel. Okay, let's look at the chapter. Read with me. The deserts of Arabia have a very peculiar climate. During the day, it is very hot. The heat is unbearable. During the night, it becomes very cold. The climate in the desert is extreme. It is either very hot or very cold. There are some words which are unfamiliar for you. Okay, let's look upon that first. Then it will be easy for you to understand that paragraph. Okay. The first word is peculiar. What is the meaning of peculiar? Unusual. യൂഷ്വൽ അല്ലാത്ത സാധാരണമല്ലാത്തതിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ പെക്യുലർ എന്ന് പറയുക. The word peculiar is used in a different context, like in speciality. If anything have any speciality, we will use the word peculiar. So here it is said that the deserts of Arabia have a very peculiar climate. The Arabia's climate is very special. It is peculiar. And the next word is unbearable. That is impossible to bear. സഹിക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്ത എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴാണ് നമ്മൾ അൺബെയറബിൾ എന്ന വേർഡ് നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുക. യു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റുഡ്? ദ ഹീറ്റ് ഈസ് അൺബെയറബിൾ. അവിടുത്തെ ചൂട് സഹിക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്തതാണ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റിലാണ് നമ്മൾ അൺബെയറബിൾ എന്നുള്ള വേർഡ് ഉപയോഗിക്കുക. Now let's read the first paragraph. The deserts of Arabia have a very peculiar climate. That the climate of Arabia is very special. During the day, it is very hot. At the daytime, the climate is very hot and the heat is unbearable. The heat is impossible to bear. During the night, it becomes very cold. At the night time, how it is the climate there? Yes, it is very cold. The climate in the desert is extreme. It is either very hot or very cold. The climate is there is very cold or very hot. No climate in between that, like us. Okay, students, look here. This is the daytime in desert and this is the night time in desert. The daytime is hot and the night time is cold. Now, I think you are familiar with the camels and the desert, the features or the peculiar climates of desert. So, now we can move to the story. Read with me. Once there was a camel driver. Camel driver means the one who look after or use camel for transportation. Can be called as camel driver. And his name is Mustafa. Mustafa, who lived in the deserts of Arabia, and he was living in the deserts of Arabia. He had a camel who was really a very stubborn fellow. And he has a camel. He had a camel who is stubborn. What is the meaning of stubborn? Yes, hard is very rough or hard to deal with. ഒരു നല്ല ഒരാളല്ല, ഭയങ്കര പരുക്കനായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു സ്വഭാവമാണ്, റഫായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു സ്വഭാവമാണെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ അവരെ എന്ത് പറയും? സ്റ്റബേൺ എന്ന് പറയും. റീഡ് വിത്ത് മീ, സ്റ്റബേൺ. ഓക്കെ, so here our camel is a stubborn fellow. The camel was clever, much cleverer than old Mustafa. And here our camel is clever than our Mustafa. Mustafa belonged to a tribe of nomads in the desert. And our Mustafa, the camel driver, he is belonged to the tribe of nomads in the deserts. Nomadian tribes എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു ട്രൈബ് ഉണ്ട് ഡെസേർട്ടിലുള്ളവർ. അപ്പോൾ അവരുടെ കൂട്ടത്തിൽ പെടുന്ന ഒരാളാണ് ആര്? മുസ്തഫ. Nomads are people who move from place to place in search of food and water. Then what is the peculiarity of nomads people? They will move from place to place in search of food and water. In nomads tribes, they will never settle in a place. They will move from one place to another place in search of food and water. They are always in a journey. Then the desert, as you know, is covered with sand. Yes, there is sand everywhere and very little water, and it is hard to find water in desert. You know that. It hardly ever rains in the desert, and the rains are hardly ever rains in the deserts. Sometimes there are terrible sandstorms when the sand is kicked up by the wind and blown into your face and hair and eyes and mouth. So sometimes it's said that it is hard to find water in desert and it hardly ever rains. And the other thing is that sometimes there will be sandstorms. What is sandstorm? Yes, the sand is kicked up by the wind and blown into your face and hair and eyes and mouth. So എന്താണ് വിൻഡ് സ്റ്റോം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ സാൻഡ് സ്റ്റോം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? ഡെസേർട്ടിൽ കാറ്റ് വീശുമ്പോൾ ആ കാറ്റിൽ ഈ കുറേ മണൽത്തരികളെല്ലാം കൂടി പൊങ്ങി വന്ന്, അത് അത്രയും ശക്തിയുള്ള കാറ്റായിരിക്കും. ആ കാറ്റിൽ ഈ മണൽത്തരികളെല്ലാം കൂടി പറന്ന് നടക്കുക. സോ നമ്മൾ അവിടെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് നമ്മളുടെ മുഖത്തൊക്കെ ആവും. So it is hard to survive there, and it is given that life in the desert is very hard. The life of the people and animals who live in the desert is also very hard. അല്ലേ? അപ്പോൾ ഈ ഉള്ള സർക്കംസ്റ്റൻസിലൊക്കെ ജീവിക്കുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് വെരി ഹാർഡ്. Then Mustafa and his camel were once caught in a sandstorm. And our Mustafa and his stubborn, what is the word? Stubborn camel were once caught in a sandstorm. The sand blew in all directions, and Mustafa, leading his camel, could hardly see where he was going. So they were caught in a sandstorm, and the sand blew in all directions, and Mustafa can't see anything. So suddenly the storm was over. A great calmness and stillness came over the desert, and there he could find a calmness എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? ശാന്തത. stillness എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? ഒരു അനക്കവും ഇല്ലാത്തൊരവസ്ഥ. Came over the desert. Mustafa rubbed the sand out of his eyes and looked around. And our Mustafa, he rubbed the sand out of his eyes. അതായത് കണ്ണൊക്കെ തിരുമ്മി സാൻഡൊക്കെ കളഞ്ഞു. and looked around, ചുറ്റും നോക്കി. There was no sign of other nomads, and there was no sign. The nomads, they will travel in groups, and he could not find anyone there. And there our Mustafa is alone, and he is saying that, I fear we have lost sight of our brothers, said Mustafa to his camel. And here our Mustafa is talking to his camel that he have a fear that he has lost the sight of the brothers. And very good, thought the camel to himself. And our camel is very stubborn, right? And what he is thinking, he's thinking, yeah, it is very good. And Now I will not be forced to carry more and more luggage. And here our camel is finding happiness in that. He is saying that oh, it is very good because he will not be forced to carry any more luggage. The sun set and night fell, and here the night time came. Mustafa put up his tent for the night. You can see here our Mustafa has prepared a tent. He put up a tent for the night. The night was very cold. As we said earlier, the night in the desert is very cold. Mustafa was warm and cozy in his tent. The word cozy, what is the meaning of the word cozy? That is snug. Or we can say that a comfortable feeling. Cozy, comfortable feeling. Okay. Now our Mustafa was warm and he is comfortable in his tent. Who said that? Yes, our camel. Said the camel, feeling very annoyed. What is the meaning of annoyed? Yes, he was angry. Why he is angry? Because his blanket had been lost in the storm and he was feeling very cold. He has lost his blanket in the storm and he is very feeling very cold. That's why he is annoyed. Why should I freeze? And here our camel was saying to himself that why should I freeze? I am the one who works whole day. I am the one who works all day. I should get a place in the tent. And here our camel is saying that I am the one who work all the day. So I should get a place in the tent. And what did he do? Yes, the camel woke Mustafa from his sleep. My head is very cold. May I put it inside the tent? He asked very politely. Then our camel woke our Mustafa and he asked him that, may I put my head inside this tent because it is very cold out here? He asked very politely. Politely എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? വിനീതമായിട്ട്. Okay. Then old Mustafa was a kind man. Our Mustafa was a kind man. Was a kind man when compared to the camel, right? So let's look what happened next. Yes, you may, he said, and turned around and went to sleep. And our Mustafa said, yes, you can keep your head inside the tent. Okay, then he went to sleep. A little later, the camel called, it is so cold. My long neck is becoming sore. I will get a sore throat. May I put my neck inside the tent? And after a few moments later, our camel called out and he said that it is so cold. My long neck is becoming sore. I will get a sore throat. May I put my neck inside the tent? And he asked, may I put my neck inside this tent? Because it is so cold out here. Or I will get a sore throat. What did our camel said? എന്താ നമ്മുടെ ക്യാമൽ പറഞ്ഞത്? ഇവിടെ ഭയങ്കര തണുപ്പാണ്, ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ലോങ് നെക്ക് മാത്രം ഒന്ന് ഉള്ളിലേക്ക് ഇട്ടോട്ടെ, ഐ വിൽ ഗെറ്റ് എ സോർ ത്രോട്ട്, എനിക്ക് തൊണ്ടവേദന വരും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. സോ വാട്ട് ഡിഡ് അവർ മുസ്തഫ ഡു? grunt. Yes, said Mustafa. Then the meaning of grunt is murmuring. പിറുപിറുക്കുന്നതിനാണ് നമ്മൾ ഗ്രണ്ട് എന്ന് പറയും. Then our Mustafa grunt and said yes. He rolled over and went back to sleep. And again our Mustafa went to sleep. Still later, the camel complained of the cold and brought his two front legs into the tent. And then what happened? Our camel is continued to complain about the cold outside there. And after some time, he brought his two front legs into the tent. And what parts are there in the tent? Head, now long neck, and two front legs. Then Mustafa had to move to one side of the tent to make place for the camel. And our Mustafa had to move to one place in order to make place for the camel. The camel complained bitterly. Bitterly means in an angry way. Our camel is continued to complain about the cold. Soon his body was inside the tent. And after some times, the whole body of camel is inside the tent. The tent was meant for only one person. The tent was so small and it is only for one person. It is only meant for one person. Mustafa was almost outside the tent and the camel was almost fully inside the tent. And what happened? Our Mustafa is completely outside of the tent now. And who is inside? Yes, our camel is inside the tent. Hey, hey, give me some place, said old Mustafa. When realized this, our Mustafa said, hey, give me some place. Waking up, the camel, as I said, was cleverer than Mustafa. Yes, at the beginning of the story, it is said that camel is cleverer than Mustafa. You are almost out of the tent and I am almost inside it. It will be easier if you sleep outside and I sleep inside the tent, said the camel. And what did the camel said? Yeah, now you are almost outside the tent, right? And I am almost inside the tent. So it is easy. It will be easier for you to sleep outside and I will sleep inside the tent, said the camel. With that, the camel pushed himself into the tent and Mustafa went out of the tent. And what did our camel do? He pushed Mustafa out of the tent, and poor old Mustafa had to sleep out in the cold night air while his camel was warm and cozy inside the tent. And what happened? Yes, our poor Mustafa have to sleep in the cold night air, and the camel he is in the inside the tent and he was warm and cozy. Okay, this is the story of Mustafa and camel. Yes, it is said that the Arab and the camel, and the Arab is our Mustafa and the camel is our stubborn camel. Have you understood this chapter? Let's sum up the story. At the beginning, we can see that the Mustafa, the old Mustafa, and the stubborn camel, they are walking through the desert. Suddenly, a sandstorm came, and it made Mustafa to lost his brothers. So, then the night time came, and Mustafa put up a tent for him, and our camel is outside the tent and it was very cold outside the tent. So our angry and stubborn camel, what did he ask? He asked for some place to keep his head inside the tent, and our Mustafa agreed with that. He said that you can put your head inside this tent. It's merely a head, right? So then after a few time, again our camel is asking for some more space to keep his long neck, or otherwise he will get a sore throat. Then also our Mustafa agreed with that, and then after a few time later, we could see that the two front legs were inside the tent, and after some times we can see that the camel is completely inside the tent and Mustafa is outside the tent in the cold night. And Mustafa asked for some place, and what did our camel replied? You are almost outside the tent, so it is better you to sleep outside, and I will sleep inside. Then our poor Mustafa slept in the cold night desert outside the tent, and the camel was inside the tent and he was warm and cozy, right? So, have you understood this story? This is the story about a poor Arab whose name is Mustafa, who has a stubborn camel who is clever than him. And as a result of the cleverness of the camel, our poor Mustafa need to sleep in the cold night outside the tent. Okay, students, that's all for today. I hope you have understood the chapter. See you in the next class. Thank you.